Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Life is a Sacred Journey. I am your host, Micheal Pope, and I'm having a hot flash moment. So you see me shining here, but it's really good to be with you this morning. And I have my good friend, my new friend. I'm so lucky. I make new friends every single week, Chris Bravo. And we will be getting into Chris's work and what he's doing. I'm sure that you saw it on Facebook Live. We always put it in. But before I bring Chris on and tell you a little bit about what he's been doing, I want to reach out to all of you and to continue to tell you to please wear your mask. We're finding that in many, many areas in California, we are in the red zone. We're not moving out of the phase that we need to be in. And in order for us to have a holiday season that makes any kind of sense, you're gonna have to wear your mask, and you're gonna have to do that. I've got this mask, I've got this mask, I've got mask in the car, I got mask hanging off the rear view mirror, so that wherever I go, and actually this is why I'm hot. Yeah, okay. And no matter where I go, then I have the ability to put a mask on. You guys, come on, we've been doing this way too long. Aren't you tired yet? I know I am. I'm tired. I'm tired of the mask. I'm tired of going and getting tested for COVID every time I turn around because I got to do something and I want to make sure that people are safe and all of that. And here we go. We're still dealing with COVID. That's crazy, crazy madness. So put on your mask. Put on your mask. And to those of you that do not want to put on your mask, I'm not mad at you, but stop beating up the people and spitting on the people and yelling at the people that are wearing their masks. Go do your thing. You don't want to wear your mask? Go do your thing. But for all of us that want to wear our mask, leave us the heck alone, okay? Go do your thing. Not mad at you. Hope you don't get the COVID. I will pray for you, but leave the people that are wearing the mask alone. They're just trying to make the world safe for you and for the rest of us. And if you're not digging that, that's your privilege, but you don't have the right to be mean to them and to accost them because they have on a mask, okay? So that's the Micheal Pope drop the mic thing for today. Be good, people, come on, be good. Stop acting like you don't know stuff. You got values, you got manners. Let's start acting like we know that, okay? All right, peace be with you. All right, so I am so excited because Chris Bravo is a documentary filmmaker based in Brooklyn, New York. His work, I sat in my bed last night with my grapes and cheese and wine and watched his documentary about his mom. I read his blog and his blogs rather, and I just it resonated with me so much. Felicia knew it would, because his wording around dementia, the way that he's looking at his mom's dementia and her journey with dementia is very different than the way that we sometimes look at it. Yes, he knows this is a hard time for his mom, hard time for him, and he misses some of the aspects of his mom's personality and who she is, but he also is, oh God, respectful and thankful for the connection that they still have the opportunity to have. COVID-19, of course, has gotten in the way of that, and he'll talk a little bit about that. But he is an amazing, and I am so happy to talk to him. And so let me read a little bit, just because I want you to know where to go to find out more about Chris. So Bravo's films have been screened internationally at venues and festivals such as Chicago Underground Film Festival, the New York Underground Film Festival, the Oakland International Film Festival, yay, and Anthology Film Festival, Berlin Directors Lounge, Chicago Filmmakers, Allied Media Conference, the People's Film Festival, and his current projects explore the intersection of aging, ageism, caregiving, immigration, and racism. he'll be back because we need to talk about those things as well. Bravo's current short film, Some of My Parts, about dementia, loss, and disappearance, is a part of the more extensive project. He is interested in the convergence of two hyper-marginalized communities, the aging population and immigrants, who are mostly women of color, who take care of them. Additionally, Chris works as a documentary editor on feature films, documentary series, and podcasts. His work has appeared on Showtime, Hulu, PBS Frontline, Epix, and he has won an Emmy and Peabody Awards. I am so thankful to bring to you my friend, my new friend. I wish we had known each other when I was in New York. I'm a little probably too old, but Chris Bravo. Welcome, Chris.
Oh, thank you, Micheal, for having me. That was an amazing introduction. I hope I can follow. Thank you.
So I watched your documentary last night, and the way that the documentary was done, I loved it because you had your mom's voice. Mm-hmm. And you also, it's a very sensory documentary with sound and sight. And when you put that together, one of the things that touched me so deeply was hearing your mom, one, connect with the fact that things were changing for her, things are different for her, and that sense of what's going on for me, and your ability to meet her where she is. But was it always that way?
Well, I mean, one thing that I was thinking about when I kind of started and embarked sort of on the project, specifically like with my mom, is that, I've been doing, involved with like the different kinds of activism for a while, and, particularly around issues around incarceration and policing and anti-racism. And one idea that you hear a lot from those communities is like a slogan, and it basically goes something like, nothing about us without us, which basically means that you can't really even start a process of reconciliation, a process like kind of addressing inequality without having the voice of the people, like actually like at the table, and kind of like you funnel all your work kind of like through that. And so it seemed that like in kind of thinking about ageism and dementia, that there was a lot of really great work sort of being done about it, but there was still a gap that we're sort of like missing the voice of these people like in the conversation. And I don't know, I kind of felt then like as a cultural worker that was just one way that I could really kind of, contribute to like this effort that's kind of going on in all sorts of different places, is because I feel like that might be an avenue to kind of like include that. And so that was like really sort of, I think that the basis for thinking about the short film is like, let's start to think about like how to listen to these voices, which is, I think it's hard and requires like some work on our part. I don't know if we're totally there yet. Yeah. But I'm hoping that this film is like kind of a first step into kind of like trying to do that. And I think that there's a lot of issues around, listening to people with dementia that are sensitive. And I think that one of the kind of the powerful opportunities with it is that we really need to kind of start from like our own experience, our own family members, like rely on our own relationships and the trust that's built in that to like, to be able to support that voice. And so that's really kind of like what I was kind of trying to do with this film. And I was just, I think going, trying to answer your question a little bit more directly is that my mom, I was lucky because my mom is like a very verbal person. And so she loves to talk. She loves to talk about her experience, and she loves to share her experience and make those kinds of connections. And so the process of sort of like building the film was like fairly organic, because it was really just about pressing record on my phone when I was kind of hanging out with her, because that's kind of like what our conversations are like, and that's what she really sort of like enjoys is like that back and forth, and I think that she kind of gets a sense of connection when she's able to sort of talk and then hear somebody on the other side, like sort of like receiving that. And so conversation for her, it's very musical in the sense that when you play music with somebody, like you're kind of listening to what they're giving you, and then you're kind of trying to do something kind of productive, like back into that, and into that space, and kind of share space with that person. And so that's how she communicates. And so I felt like I was really able to kind of take that and really then just sort of build the film like around it. And so I think I was just very fortunate to sort of find myself in that position, like where I was sort of already given the materials with which to work.
Yeah. Well, and you know what, the thing that is so interesting too under this time of COVID, people not realizing, even though we intellectually understand the sense of isolation, but with a person with dementia, when you take away their familiar, so you are your mom's familiar and connection to the snapshots of her life. And so the reality is, when you can't go, and I love seeing you bending over, looking through the glass, to try to connect. And you quoted in your blog, the what did you say? You said the glare from the glass creates this. You weren't able to connect in the way you want. I mean, we just don't even think about those things. So,
yeah, it was very, I mean, just sort of give people a little bit of an understanding of sort of where the projects are at. I started the film last fall, like in October, November 2019, and it was fairly quick. I've been recording interviews, talking with the conversations with her for a while before that, but that was like really when I was like, okay, I'm shooting this, and this is the way the film's gonna be looking like. And so like I edited and I finished it around January or February, which now is like, it's, in retrospect, it's well, it is what it is. Yeah, but then COVID happened in March, and then all of these changes sort of like took place. And so on the one hand, I was, these issues that we're talking about are now being centered in our culture in like this massive way, because now we're really thinking about like, how are we treating aging people in our culture? Like, what role are they playing in our culture? Where do they live in our culture? How are we supporting them? How do we feel about them? And, and so that was exciting because, coincidentally, like I felt like that, okay, we're right there. But on the other hand, it also kind of felt that COVID added all sorts of heavy realities like into the situation that wasn't really addressed like in the film. I felt like I needed to address that, and that's where the writing kind of came in, because then I was like, okay, like now I can kind of continue thinking about these things like in terms of the writing. And that was like really, a good process. I thought it was like really helpful. Yeah. And I think processing like what you're saying, it's that people with dementia, they find those connections to their loved ones, not even just to their loved ones, but to their caretakers, like if they're living in a residential situation, the other residents, they really utilize so many different kinds of tools to kind of connect them to their environment, to their place, to what's happening around them, beyond the kind of the strict functioning of language. That's right. And so I think that we really at this moment like need to kind of like recognize that the way that their space is transformed because of COVID, with the quarantines, with the masks, with the window visits, with like the Facebook, in some nursing homes, if you can't do window visits because the floor is on quarantine, they'll set up Facebook, video chats and things like that. Somebody with dementia, they might not be able to connect with you through the screen. That's right. That might not happen, and so I think it's really an opportunity to sort of like recognize that the situation that we're in now is really hitting people with dementia extremely hard. But I also think it's an opportunity to think about like, okay, like what do people with dementia need from us in terms of helping them build those tools, helping them make those connections, helping them feel secure in their space, kind of giving them support that they can use to sort of make those connections with the people around them. And so I think it is, as with so many other issues right now, a kind of a dire situation. But then I think that, it's also possible to kind of take this as an opportunity to have these kind of questions really laid bare a little bit and really kind of think productively about supporting people with dementia.
Well, and Chris, this documentary is so vital, and we'll talk, and hopefully we'll be able to also distribute it on our website so that people can see it. Because the other piece of it is this whole idea that we knew as a country that we were going to have this graying tsunami because of the fact that we've been talking about baby boomers now for the last 3 decades, that, we're going to have this group of people, the largest population of aging folks over the age of 65. It's going to come. We need to prepare. And we didn't. And then we also, as a society, forget to realize that we have set up a culture where age-ism is, I talk about age-ism a lot, and I'm going to have you back so we can talk about that in a more specific way. But again, you start to think about people, even with this COVID, that we heard people saying, well, if it's an older person versus a younger person that needs the ventilator, and we only have 1 or 2 where we're going to give it to the younger person. And I'm like, how dare you say that? How dare you determine, because somebody, is 80 or 90 years old, 70, 80, 90 years old, that you've decided that their life expectancy, you don't know how long people are going to live. And the reality is, do you have that choice? Is that ethical? And are we having these conversations that when we have to decide between caring for young people and caring for old people, why are we separating them? In your research and what you're doing, do you see the conversation around ageism even coming up? Your documentary is rare. I'm going to tell you, there's not a whole lot out there about ageism and dementia and Alzheimer's, and when it is, it can be real doomy and gloomy. I'm going to say that you don't even see any joy. You see nothing. You just see this it's hard and it's and so the poor people that are living through this experience gets stereotyped that they're a whole bunch of things, and I haven't found that to be true. Yes, there are changes in behavior and all of these things, but I see people that still want to be loved, that still want to be communicated with, and that their wrinkles and their gray hair and their life experiences only attract me more. I don't see it as barrier driven. Speak to that if you would.
Yeah, I think it goes to the way that we ascribe value to people's lives. There's that discussion is like, it's taking a place right now across a whole wide range of issues. And I think with older people, like, that's definitely part of like what we were really kind of like rational, trying to reckon with. And for me, I feel like I see a lot of fear that people have, and they bring to that discussion a lot of fear. And in a certain sense, it's understandable, because it's like a feedback loop of where you look at the aging process and you just sort of characterize it with all of this doom and gloom. Oh, you're going to lose your mind. You're going to lose your abilities. You're going to lose your independence. You're going to go broke. You're going to wind up in this awful nursing home situation. And then of course people aren't going to want to engage with that, you know? And so then like we kind of like have a situation like where, you know, you have like, you know, like an entire culture that's really like invested in marginalizing those people even further to keep them out, because you don't want to like see that, you don't want to do it. And so and then that then kind of turns into an increased amount of devaluation, and until you get to a point like when we're in now, like where you literally have people like on television shrugging off like thousands of people dying, you know what I'm saying? Like there's like as a trade-off, you know, and it's just like, wow, that's you know, that's not healthy. That's not a sign of a healthy culture.
Right.
And so I think that, you know, it is interesting, and I think that you know, that one of the ways to counter that is to sort of like then reassert the value, you know, assert the value and find like figure out like what we're kind of, you know, and I think the way that we think about caregiving a lot is about like what you're doing for that person, that loved one who's aging, or that loved one with dementia.
Right.
And I'm interested in thinking about what they're doing for you as the caregiver. You know, what are we getting out of that relationship? And I think that we can really kind of like explore that and you know, find a lot of like value in that caregiving is a gift that person is giving you. Like that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for you to grow. That's an opportunity for you to get skills.
Yes.
And I think, you know, and one of the things that I kind of came across in an article, and somebody was kind of talking about the power of care receiving. And I think that caregiving comes with all sorts of challenges. It's difficult. It's, you know, it's a Herculean task to take care of somebody and to meet their needs. And I'm right there with all the caregivers out there who are stressed out, like who are at the end of the rope, who are, you know, frazzled.
Yes.
You know, but I also think that we have to respect that care receiving is a very difficult thing as well. How do we receive care with grace? How do we receive care with humility? How do we let go some of that control? And caregiving, like, really is the way that we learn how to do that. Like, that's how we kind of get in touch with that, because so that when we are in that position, when we need to care, then we can do that well.
Exactly.
And so that's just like an important phase of life. Like, we need to like be more respectful of that, and really, I think, like, take that responsibility on ourselves to be graceful through all of these phases of our life. And for us not to look at the end of our life with the same kind of passion and verve that we look at, like, the transition from childhood to adulthood, for example, like, that doesn't make very much sense to me. We need to be able to do this gracefully all the way through. And I think elderly people and people with dementia, and that they're showing us the way, and we need to listen to that more. Otherwise, there's a big section of the life experience that we are missing out on, and that's we pay the price for that.
Absolutely. And as I say too, Chris, you and I are going to get together, because this is my dream. I've been saying, I've had this dream decades. I said, you know, one day I want to put together I think it needs to be light. I don't want to call it sitcom, because I think that's a weird kind of word, but I think there needs to be something that comes into the consciousness of our people, the world, the community, that is showing them. I have never seen a show or a movie on television or in movies. I mean, The Notebook was kind of okay, but kind of not, because when I looked at it, I'm like, nope, it doesn't happen that way. That's not how it goes. And really just show the humor, the life of individuals that are still living with dementia. You know, that's why I don't say struggling or living with the challenge. I go living with. They're coping and they're doing things. We have an artist downstairs. He still draws. We have a gentleman downstairs that every time I gain a little weight, he goes, oh, you've been eating a little too much. You know, yeah, the filter's gone, But I love it. I love it. Again, you know, I'm from the East Coast. I love candor. So I crack up. But they're still there. When I bring the dog in, you know, there are many of them that are dog lovers and they love that dog. That dog gets so much love in a day. They're still people. They tell me their stories about World War II and being in France and when they met the mirror of the back life is still there. And we just dismiss them as if they have nothing to say. We think that everything they say isn't true because they have dementia, that they're imagining things. And in fact, no, these are, you know, at 63 years old, I hope to live another 40 years through the grace of of my divine creator. But at the end of the day, if I don't want somebody to tell me that I'm no longer that vital. I don't want somebody to tell me that I can no longer engage in the world in the way that I am now, or however I engage in the future. When you began to look for a place for your mom, how did your personality, her personality, how did that play into the cultural place that you were looking for her? Because you moved her from out of state to New York to be closer to you so that you could, you know, visit, care, all of that. What were you looking for that would match her?
You know, and I'm sure that this is a familiar story to like your audience and all sorts of caregivers, is that when you are like working with your loved one on residential issues, that is a very fraught time, because that's a lot of like emotions around it. Those are big steps to make. And I think like as a caregiver, you know, when you kind of get, and I definitely, this happened to me, is you kind of get into crisis mode a little bit of just like, what, like, you know, we have big problems here and we need to fix them. And so I think in retrospect, unfortunately, you know, you don't always, you know, that's not always a position of power when you're kind of operating very defensively like that, you know, and just kind of, you know, and so, but we were very fortunate that we were able to pull on resources to get her in the right kind of living situation at the right moments. But one of the things that I did notice was how much of the aging institutions were designed to address my anxieties and not so much her anxieties. And so I would walk into these places and then it was like, wow, this looks really nice. That's really great carpeting. That's really, I love the dining room here. Like, I love the banisters. Like, I love all of this and all of that. And it was really pretty apparent that what they were addressing is like my own fear about walking into that, not having anything to do with her and not really convincing her that this was a place that was going to be supportive of what she needed. This was about making me feel better walking through that space. And I, you know, of course, like, I'm a human being. I want my needs met. You know what I'm saying? But like in a situation where you have limited resources, it's just like, well, like, don't spend that on me. You know, don't spend that money on me. Spend that on her. You know, let's rethink some of this. Like, you know, and so, you know, she was in some like places. She was in a place for like about a year that was, you know, but it was, you know, she didn't really kind of feel very supported. And then, you know, it's a complicated story, but she was like in Maryland. I'm up in New York. And then at some point we moved her from Maryland to New York. And now she is in what's more traditionally like a nursing home environment, like here in the Bronx, Kings Harbor, which we can talk about Kings Harbor. I mean, there's really a lot of positive things about it. And, you know, it's also, but anyway, when you kind of go into Kings Harbor, there's a lot going on. They deal with a lot of different kinds of residents, like a lot of different health issues, a lot of different cognitive abilities, and they kind of squash everybody together. And it kind of feels like a very sort of like hectic place. As, you know, a caregiver myself, you kind of go into that, you start feeling very disoriented, you kind of panicky. But like once she got in there, that in some way, the Kings Harbor was much more supportive of her than the previous place, because it gave her a level of sociability, a level of interaction. Like, you know, it might be kind of annoying if I'm in her room kind of trying to talk with her, and every 2 or 3 minutes, like a resident comes walking in the room to kind of start a conversation with you, you know, and it's kind of like, but at the same time, like, that is somebody moving in and out of her space, somebody that she can kind of connect to, and it's kind of something happening. And so I think, that we need to kind of rethink, about how we're kind of, judging some of like these spaces, and have I just feel that coming through this process as a total lay person is that I feel like there's a lot of like possibility, and a lot of potential, like in thinking about like how like these institutional living spaces can be set up and can be reorganized to be a much more environment that can be just more supportive of people.
And yeah, I love that you said that, because that's always been my thing. I go in and they have these huge chandeliers and all these, it's like walking into the Taj Mahal. And I say to them, I go, well, but wait a minute, how does that benefit the person with dementia? What are your activities like, and why do you have your dementia wing all the way at the back of the building instead of in the front of the building? Why is the door locked and people don't have the ability to walk around like they would in a community? So those things I ask those questions because I don't want my children, if they should choose to go that route, that's not the kind of place I want to be in. I don't want them spending their money or my money in that way. I want an environment where I can walk outside and you have, of course, keep me safe, because I'm going to be a wanderer. I'm going to be wanting to wander out.
You already know that.
Yeah, we already know that. So we got to close it in. But don't make me feel, that's what we do to people that we incarcerate. So we're not trying to incarcerate them. We're trying to create a safe environment where people can live in the world. And so the fact that you just said that, you just have made my day, because I've been fighting for that. You have no idea, because then you end up charging people $9,000, $10,000 a month for dementia care because you built a building, you built a hotel. Yeah. You didn't build a caring facility.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that the world is listening to you this morning, and that you are just, resonating I'm going to make sure everybody knows about you, knows about your,
that would be amazing.
Your blog and everything, because at the end of the day, when we don't understand that these are families and these are individuals that are trying to live in the world, we will never get this right. We will we'll never have the opportunity to get this right, because we will have another generation of aging people, and we will think what we've done now is really right on, and we will continue to invest multitudes of dollars instead of investing dollars in making sure people maintain independence, dignity, and respect. And that's what it's all about. It's not about all that other gobbledygook. I'm so happy that you said that. I am so happy that you said that. So tell people how they can get in contact with you and your blog and all your information, so that they know how.
Well, hopefully, I think you have a link to the film, which is on Vimeo, and so people can definitely go there and check it. And I will make sure that I have a Facebook group for the film, which I'm kind of going to use like as a little bit of a clearinghouse. So I'll post links if I do writing there. And so definitely follow the Facebook group for that. And that's probably the best way to, follow along with how the project is going. Because definitely, I'm using the short film like really like as a launching point into doing a longer film, hopefully, that I think is along the same idea, but that involves different people and different voices. I mean, one of the things that really kind of strikes me about the people with dementia is that it's not one thing. Like it's something that different, everybody sort of deals with differently, and everybody has a different experience with. And so as I'm sort of going through this, that's really kind of striking me about like how kind of personalized like the situation is for people. And so I'm really kind of interested in exploring that ongoing. And so that's sort of where my mind is at.
Okay, and then Chris, is there anything that you know, before we end, you and I could talk for an hour around this topic. I have so many more questions to ask you, but we promised you that we would only take a little bit of your time this morning. So, but we will definitely have you back. But is there any transformation that has occurred in you through this experience as your last words that you would like to share with our audience? How have you been transformed by this experience?
It's really, I mean, I think it goes back to like what we were sort of talking about, is I think that when I kind of started the kind of my own personal caregiving story, there was so much kind of fear and sort of trepidation there. And that being able to sort of like contextualize that, get that under control, and really kind of like start to try to look past that fear and sort of start seeing like opportunities, like that was just such a blessing. And like I never would have been able to do that myself. Like that is 100% through engaging with the system and engaging with like my mom in particular. And it's hard to sort of describe, and I don't know if I understand the particular like dynamics of it, but like leaving a conversation with her, I just feel so light and grateful for the opportunity to think and to feel things that I know didn't come from me, you know, and I don't know exactly how that was working, you know, but it's coming from there. Grateful is really just the word for it.
Is it okay for me to ask you what your mom's name is?
Joyce Bravo.
All right. Well, please, Joyce doesn't know us here at Life is a Sacred Journey, but let her know that we love her, and I loved hearing her voice, and yes, there was moments where I could tell that she was confused, and through that confusion, her words were so wisdom seeking, and she said things that were so profound, like, you know, I like this place, but I'm not sure that I like this place. That will resonate with me forever, because it's how I feel when I go into something new. I'm not sure. I kind of do, but maybe not. And that's a real emotion, and that's a real feeling. So please let Miss Joyce know that she is loved by the Life is a Sacred Journey family, and that I want you to know how grateful I am that you chose to come into this world through Miss Joyce, because now you are changing the world, and you will change the world on how we talk about ageism, how we talk about ageism along with Alzheimer's and dementia, because dementia is the diagnosis, Alzheimer's the disease. How we change that so that people coming down the road will be treated with dignity and respect. And we also will push the needle on mental health, because anything that we do for dementia, anything we do for ageism will also push the needle for mental health, because there really is many similarities. Even though dementia is not a mental health diagnosis, there still are similarities in the system that people are put in once they are diagnosed with either or. So, well, Chris, I don't want to let you go. I'm having a hard time letting you go. Yeah, so Chris Bravo is a filmmaker, and his mother has dementia. His mother has dementia along with thousands of other people throughout the United States. We have a system right now that doesn't quite understand dementia. We have a system in some places where we've turned dementia into a capitalistic, money-making, revenue-producing business, and we've forgotten about the people that are living with it, and the people and the families that they're connected to. And during COVID-19, how hard this has been for my new friend, my new brother, Chris, that, you know, not being able to go in and just hug his mom, and for her to hug him, and for them to look into each other's eyes without the glare of glass. So Chris, thank you. Thank you for your filmmaking. Thank you for your blog. Please go to Chris Bravo's blog and read those words. Those words will haunt you. I went to sleep by them last night, and they will haunt you. And they will make you realize, when you hear his mother, Miss Joyce's voice, in the documentary, you will understand there's a person in there. there's a person in there that's loved by Chris Bravo. And so, Chris, have a wonderful day in the neck of the woods. I'm glad that you're doing well during COVID and you're safe. And one day when I'm back in New York, when I can travel again, I hope that we will be able to get together and have dinner and meet each other face to face.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And as soon as possible, like, let's get past this moment and then like, let's get back into the business of like being with each other. And
Yes, let's do it. And you keep doing what you're doing. We'll try to marry together. And I want to thank all of you. Share this, share this, share this. I forgot to say, Felicia's going to kill me. Hit the share button. Go to our YouTube channel. Go to all of our podcast stuff. Share it. Have a conversation around it with your family and friends. This is something that, along with all the other things that are going on in the world, that really matters. We're going to have Chris back to talk about racism because he's also doing some work on that. So we'll have him back to have that discussion because that's something, as you all know, that I think we need to have more conversations about. Chris, peace be with you. Be safe. And thank you so much for your time on Life is a Sacred Journey. And it's great to add you to my new list of friends. Thank you so much.
thank you.
All right. Peace be with you.